Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. We are back with another episode. We're back with season 3, episode 2 today. Man, it's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one.
And so if this is your first time listening in, welcome. Welcome to the Miqra Project, the Bible study project, everything that we're putting together. Welcome in, and we're so glad that you're here. And if you're part of our community already, welcome back. We love you. We're so excited that you're here for another great episode. AJ, we are joined with obviously Mr. AJ Holloway. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing excellent, man. I'm doing excellent.
Awesome, bro. We got a good episode today, huh? We're going to continue in God's image, the image of God. And so, how are you been? How's family? How's everybody doing?
Family's great, man. We're just loving ministry. I love what God's doing and loving Miqra. I mean, we talked about it briefly before we went live. Is like, we love this project and fun. Yeah. It's called Miqra Bible Study.
Yeah.
And Levi, you and I have been talking what we are planning to do through these season 3 discussions. Season 3 is going to be a long season, but we're going systematically through a series of studies. And we want to fulfill what we're even called the Miqra Bible Study. At the end of this, we're going to turn these discussions into a Bible study that you can use for your own edification. You can teach it to someone. And these series of discussions that we're having in season 3 will accompany that Bible study. So when that is done, we're going to let everyone know. But these discussions can kind of be a little bit of a director's commentary to the teaching and the lessons of those. Like I said, if you want to just use it for your own study time, or if you want to do that and then teach it, that's our vision. We're not trying to create anything new. We know where there's great Bible studies out there. We're not trying to compete with that. We're just trying to put more resources out in addition to all these other great Bible studies that have already been produced. This will be one of the longer ones. Kind of a full discipleship, salvation, all of it. We want to have an all-in-one, and we're going to do a series of things. We're excited about this series.
Yes, I'm pumped up. There's a lot of great things in the works behind the scenes, and we're going to keep you all posted on all the stuff. And like the AJ said, written material. I know that's been like a number one request. People have asked me, texted me, direct message our accounts, asking for written material on these episodes, and especially for this season. And we're working on it. We're going to do it. And so we're pumped up about it. We are super pumped up about it.
Levi's pretty far on one project now. We're in the final stages. So we'll let y'all know about that here pretty soon.
Maybe in the next week or so, we're going to be putting out a lot of stuff for some written material that is coming out. And we're pumped up about that. But today's episode, what are we going to be talking about? I mean, go ahead.
We're going to continue on in what our discussion launched last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about, well, somebody's listening brand new. It's going to be, you can binge listen. So sorry to all the live listeners. But we started talking about the image of God, kind of building out what that is. Brief recap, the image of God is what we were called in the garden. And then when man fell, they went outside the garden and they fractured, they broke into 3, prophet, priest, and king. But all of those attributes, prophet, priest, and king, was mashed all into one image, the image of God. And each of them throughout the Old Testament is kind of showing us what the image of God should look like. When we see prophets, that's just 1/3 of what the image of God should be. When we see kings, good kings, I should preface that, we're seeing 1/3, and priests. So now that we have that kind of established where we're going with that, in this episode, we're going to look at the fall. We're going to kind of build out what happened there when the image of God fractured. And we're going to talk about being deformed in this particular episode. And as you listen, there's going to be a lot of words in the Bible that are going to make more sense than they've ever made. And scriptures might make more sense because anybody who's ever spent time with me, you're going to hear me say it a lot. Words matter. This is why I've focused on Hebrew studies, Aramaic, and Greek, because when we know what the words were originally intended to mean, then we can get a greater understanding of what the text is saying. So that will make a lot more sense in the next few moments as we talk about this.
Yeah.
So let's start. You ready?
Yes, sir. I'm pumped up about this.
All right. I'm going to say a word, and Levi, if you're not a history buff, this word may not matter to you. But when I say Chernobyl, what does anything come to mind for you? Maybe someone listening, a little more history buff.
Yeah, that nuclear. Is that right?
That's right.
Explosion and kind of messed up a whole city, right?
That's right. It happened 6 days before I was born.
Really?
Yeah. On April 24th, 1986, in Kiev, Ukraine, Chernobyl, the nuclear power plant, it exploded. And then 6 days later, I was born. But still to this day, Chernobyl is a ghost town. And it's because of the nuclear radiation that is still in what they call the exclusion zone. And even though the nuclear radiation is invisible, it is very deadly. So there's a hospital in Pripyat, Ukraine. This hospital that is still there, if you go to the basement of the hospital, you're going to find a bunch of firefighters' clothes that were discarded there after the firefighters went in and began to evacuate the people. If you were to go to the hospital in Chernobyl where those firefighters abandoned their clothing, then you would be exposed to 386 microsieverts of radiation. Now, to put that into perspective, that is an X-ray that does a body scan is only 1.4 microsieverts.
Wow.
So to go near the clothing that is still there, 38 years later, to go near the clothing is to be exposed to nearly 7 hours of constant X-ray radiation, or 19 years. Just a moment near the clothes is equal to 19 years of normal, everyday background radiation that you experience just going to Walmart.
Wow.
In one moment. That's how much radiation is there. So those heavy doses of invisible radiation is the primary reason for there being no human life in the area. But there are animals that are still residing in the exclusion zone. In fact, there were dogs that were out of the blast zone that stayed in the area. And in the past 38 years, the descendants of those dogs have transformed DNA due to the radiation exposure. These dogs have developed varying deformities. Birds in the area have deformed beaks and feathers. Spiders, instead of creating just your normal everyday web, they're creating abstract web designs due to deformation. Most animals have smaller brains and so on. All of this because of two untrained scientists who in 1986 allowed Chernobyl to get unstable and ultimately exploded. I'm starting with that story because what Ukraine is now in Kiev, it is the current state of things in our entire world since the fall in Genesis 3, where two individuals released an invisible killer into the world. And the Bible calls those invisible elements sin and iniquity. So I want to throw a little Easter egg here in this episode of some future episodes we're going to discuss in this season. And it's really important to this episode that we're discussing right now. But I'm going to start tossing out some of those Easter eggs. And when you listen to future episodes, those Easter eggs will stand out and you'll have to come back and binge this listen. That's just how that works. Yeah. So in Genesis 1:24 through 31, the Bible shows us that on day 6, God creates the beast of the field, and they are told to eat the grass of the ground. And then right after the beast was created, God created humanity and was told, you can eat of every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you, it shall be for food. Now, I want you to think about day 6 and think about the beast as the firstborn on day 6. And then think about the humans as the secondborn. That's the Easter egg, okay? We need to edit this and put like a little ding sound right there so you can come back and be like, there's the Easter egg. What does that mean? We're going to have a whole discussion in the future on man and beast. Now, the humans on day 6, as we discussed in the last episode, were to be made in the image of God, and their diet was different than the firstborn. The firstborn had to eat the grass of the ground. The secondborn, the humans made in the image of God, was to eat nuts and fruit. That's the whole Daniel diet, by the way. And this is a distinction between the beast and the imagers. There's a distinction in diet. Now, remember that man's call, the king side, is to have rule and dominion over the firstborn, right? Well, there was a serpent who was more cunning. Cunning in Hebrew is arum. It's not a negative word. It got translated to crafty or cunning, but it's not a bad word. Arum can be used for good. So words matter. Arum can be used to store away money into a separate account to bless, people who are in need. Or you can use that same monetary wisdom to cheat on your taxes. It's good. You can use that wisdom for good or evil.
Right.
And so this beast, the serpent, that was more cunning than any other beast of the field, he had an opportunity to use arum, craftiness, for good or evil. Well, he used it to attack the call of humanity, which was their call was to be obedient to their Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
So pay close attention to the entire scene of this movie. In Genesis 3:18, you don't necessarily have to put that up, but Genesis 3:18, and this is kind of the stuff we know. Both thorns and thistles, this is the curse, shall the ground bring forth for you. And you shall, or this is a pre-curse, I apologize. Both thorns and thistles shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. Also, verse 21, for Adam. Now remember, Adam is just human. It's not a name. It's his humanity. Also, for humanity and his wife, the Lord God made tunics of skin, and he clothed them. Mm. Now, let's pause for a second here, and let's do what we're supposed to do with the Bible. Miqra, pause, watch the movie, analyze the scene. Who was supposed to eat the grass from the ground, the herb of the field? The animals.
Right.
That was the firstborn's diet. Man's diet was nuts and fruit. Now that man has not used the king qualities that are within him by ruling and having dominion over the beast, the king is fractured. They did not say, "Thus saith the Lord," to the serpent. The prophetic is fractured. They did not manage the presence of God. The priest is fractured.
Right.
So the image of God is crumbling into these pieces. And the result is they're starting to look like the firstborn. They're eating grass from the ground, which is the diet of an animal. And now they are wearing tunics of skin, animal skins. It would appear, and this is another little Easter egg, they are resembling what they have revered for ruin.
Wow.
We will always resemble what we revere, whether for ruin or restoration. If we can revere the image of God, then we can resemble the image of God.
Yeah.
But if I revere the beast, I will resemble the beast for my ruin.
Wow. That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, that's what they're becoming beast here.
Yeah.
Now, that's a big Easter egg of a whole series of conversation we'll have in the future. This will help us understand what Daniel's talking about in their culture. When he sees beasts rising out of the sea, All of that is an image tying back to here. It's like humans be humaning,
Right.
This is distortion in our midst.
Yeah.
We're deformed. We're not imagers anymore. We're animals. They have become the beast they were supposed to have dominion over. So they're no longer the image of God. They are deformed, beastly images. They have taken on the resemblance of the creature rather than a creator. Well, it gets more interesting. So let's throw up for me Genesis 4, and let's read 1 through 7. Now, the image of God has been broken into these three pieces. Prophet, priest, and king is no longer packed within the imagers. And here in this scripture of Genesis 4, the former imagers have some kids. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, they're doing the fruitful and multiply thing.
Yeah.
So imagine them being cast out, right? They're out in the wilderness, and the door to Eden has been slammed shut. And let's pay attention to what's kind of happening here. So it says, now the man, that's Adam, had relations with his wife, Chava, or Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain, firstborn, right?
Right.
As she said, I have obtained a male child with the help of the Lord. And again she gave birth to his brother, Abel, secondborn. Now, Abel was a keeper of flocks. Oh, secondborn's ruling and having dominion over some animals. All right.
Yeah.
That's cool. But Cain was a cultivator of the ground. Now, remember, the ground is cursed. Thorns and thistles, so on and so forth. So it came about in the course of time that the secondborn, Cain, brought an offering to the Lord from the fruit of the ground. Now, let's pause. Let's watch the movie slow. You're bringing God. They're acting like priests. They're bringing offerings. That's a very priestly thing to do. Let's bring offerings to God. And we can't say that this is the why they're doing this, but it would appear based off everything happened. And we want the presence again. We want that Eden stuff. I don't want to stretch the text thin, but they are doing priestly duties here. And the firstborn brings something from the cursed ground. It's not the best that you can offer. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, Abel, on his part, also brought an offering from the firstborn of his flock and from their fat portion. So he's doing what we were called to do. He's ruling and having dominion over animals. So the king side is happening. And he's offering the firstborn of those animals, the best portion of the animal. He's doing priestly duties as well. But for Cain and his offering, God didn't have any regard. He regarded Abel's offering, but not Cain. So God is not giving any acknowledgement to the firstborn's offering.
Yeah.
He's giving acknowledgement to the secondborn's offering, and we can see why. Abel is doing what humans were called to do. So here's the results. Cain became very angry, and his face was gloomy. Then the Lord said to Cain, now God is so good. God didn't just let Cain be like, well, you deal with it. That's your problem. I don't know why you're mad. God came to him just like he did with mom and dad, Adam and Eve, when he said, where are you? Who told you that? He comes to Cain. He says, why is your face gloomy? Then he gives him, thus saith the Lord, some instructions. If you do well, will your face not be cheerful? If you do not do well, here it is. Here's what got released. Here's all of the nuclear radiation that nobody can see.
Right.
Sin, and these are all animal verbs, by the way. It stands out more profoundly in Hebrew than it does in English. English does a decent job, but sin, one translation says crouching. This translation says sin is lurking at the door, and its desire is for you. And what is the command? One translation says, but you must have dominion over it. Here it says you must master it. There's a new animal that's been created. There's some radiation out there. There's something deformed in your midst. And if you're an imager, you need to rule like a king. offer better sacrifices like a priest. And if you speak to this thing that's crouching at the door, don't say your opinion, you say my words. All Cain, the firstborn, had to do was look at the sin that was crouching at the door and say, thus saith the Lord, if I would do well, I too will be accepted. That's all you had to do here. The scripture, the instructions laid right out before him. But isn't it interesting? The firstborn kills the secondborn. He was told to have dominion over beast. And the way he interpreted that is my brother is the beast. I'll kill him like an animal.
Wow.
Firstborn, secondborn, all over again. This is where we're building out this idea. And we'll deep dive this whole firstborn, secondborn movie in later episodes, but these are all Easter eggs, but are relevant to what we're talking about right here. This is what deformed humanity does.
Right.
Even though we've got a lot of thus saith the word. We are called to rule over something more than our dog and cat. There is sin that is lurking around like an animal. There is a serpent that's been released out of the garden that should have been contained. But because of two people, it's been released. And now that it's out there, life is struggling. Life is not thriving the way it was in the garden. Sin is just insidious, and it's creeping into everything, and it's deforming everything it gets its hands on. And unfortunately for us, the word sin right there has become a list of do's and don'ts, or don'ts in this case, that stand juxtaposed to a bunch of do's. That is not, sin doesn't have a list. The word sin literally means miss. The Hebrew word, it's the Hebrew word chata, comes from the root word chatat, and it literally means miss. In fact, Judges 20:16, it says, among all his people were 700 selected men who were left-handed. Everyone could sling a stone at a hair's breadth and not miss. The word there in Judges 20:16 is the same word used later for sin. But when we see the word sin, we immediately think of a whole list of do's, or don'ts rather.
Right.
It means miss. Now, if it means miss, what is our aim? Well, let's go back and look at the original target. Our aim is to be under the influence of God and image him.
Right.
To be an imager is to be priest, prophet, king, a kingdom of priests. This is, a royal priesthood. This is that which is spoken by the prophet Joel. In the last days, your sons and daughters shall prophesy. There is a call of being restored back into the image of God. It is to image him. But now God sets the Geiger counter that's finding the radiation. He sets the Geiger counter out and reveals to Cain, there's something invisible in your atmosphere. And it's more than a list of rules.
Yeah.
It's the constant influence to miss your highest calling of imaging me. There is the presence of distortion amongst you. Wow. But there's more. Throw up for me Genesis 4:10 through 13. There's a good word here in verse 13.
What translation do you want? Do you want to stick with NASAB?
Let's do in
certain words you might want to.
Let's do. I have NKJV in my notes, so let's do that one. Right. NASB is a very literal translation. NKJV will be what a lot of people use. Let's read 10 through 13. I'm going to zoom in on a word in 13.
Okay.
So this is after Cain offers his brother on the altar. And he said, what have you done? This is God speaking. The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed from the earth. Now, the earth is cursed. Now there's another curse being released. Now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a vagabond you shall be on the earth. And Cain said to the Lord, my punishment, word punishment is the one I want to look at. My punishment is greater than I can bear. Now, the word punishment used here starts to ping on the Geiger counter, and it's saying radiation's here. It's the Hebrew word avon. Avon means twisted or bent. It's translated throughout the rest of the Bible as the word iniquity. So he is saying, my distortion, my twisted ways, I'm bent. It's more than I can bear. So now we have developing in the movie the word sin that crouches at the door. And now we have the word iniquity, or here in this case, punishment, avon. There's some distortion.
Right.
There's something in our midst that causes us to not be imagers. There's something out there invisible that's deforming us. Thankfully, there's good news. God really is convinced we can have rule over it.
Yeah.
The jury's out on that. He is right, but we cannot do it without him.
Right.
It's kind of, it's a little flash in the movie of how the end of this movie is going to go. So Leviticus 5:17. Let's look at that. We're going to see those two words we've seen now that we've studied sin and iniquity. We're going to see them together. Leviticus 5:17. If a person chatats, misses, and commits any of these things which are forbidden to be done by the commandments of the Lord, though he does not know it, yet he is guilty and shall bear his avon, his iniquity. So if a man misses, let's paraphrase that. If a man misses, he's twisted, he's distorted, he's deformed.
Right.
For them in their culture, they're saying, we're not imagers. We're circus mirrors. We're so exposed to the radiation that's been released that, like those animals that were in Kiev, Ukraine, we're taking on deformation. We've got a third ear, all these things. We're blind, as the prophets say. You have eyes, but you can't see. You have ears and you can't hear. You have mouths and you're deformed.
Right.
And in that case, the prophets are talking about you've become the idols you're worshiping because you always resemble what you revere. So if you bow down to a stone image, you'll have eyes just like it, but you won't be able to see, just like the stone idols you're bowing down to. Just like that wooden image, it's got ears, but it can't hear. Neither can you, because you look like it. You are as distorted and deformed as the object of your desire is.
Wow.
As you can see, the movie is developing at a rapid pace, very early in the Bible, and we can't help but wonder, is there refuge from all this radiation? Well, there is a really strange episode that plays out in Genesis 15. And you don't have to pull it up, but I want somebody listening to go read this. Read the whole chapter, Genesis 15. God is wanting to call someone who's distorted out from among the people, which he has done, in this case, Abram. And now God is going to sign a covenant with him, or make, in this case, it's stronger than a covenant. It's an oath. And this is the strange episode that plays out. God tells Abram, he said, I want you to take 3 animals. There's that, seeing the Easter eggs. I want you to take 3 animals. I want you to cut them in half. I want you to have dominion over these animals. Cut them in half and throw them on the ground. And to us reading that, they're like, what's that about? That's weird. Well, in that culture, and we have Sumerian texts that talk about what this thing was. In that ancient culture, when you cut animals and throw them on the floor, 2 parties would walk between those pieces. It would be like, hey, Levi, I want to make an oath with you that we're going to start Miqra Bible Project. And I agree that I'm going to do this for you. If we ever become paid for this, I'm going to pay you this much per month. And we cut animals and put them on the ground, and I walk through them, and then you walk behind me. We have established the oath that we're going to join together to embark on the Miqra Bible study. And then I have made an oath to you that we're going to be fair with compensation. The reason me and you walk through the cut animals that were on the floor is because we are making an oath with one another that if I am not fair to you in monetary compensation, and you are not fair in work involved, so to speak,
right,
then what just happened to those animals that we walked through, may it happen to us if we break this oath. I will be cut like the animals. That is the sign. Now, here's where the story gets profound. God and Abram are coming into an oath agreement together. And God tells him to cut the animals, throw them on the ground. Abram falls asleep, and God alone walks through the pieces. There's no record of Abram ever walking between those cut animals. Therefore, God made an oath. I'm going to do this. And even if you cheat me out of the agreement, I'll still take the penalty. So the question again, before we talked about Genesis 15, was this: is there any refuge, any safe place from all this radiation, all this distortion? That symbol of those distorted, cut animals on the floor, God said, even if you break away, I'll still take the punishment. I'll be distorted, even if you distort me. If you cheat me, I'll take the penalty. I'll be deformed. I'll be beaten beyond recognition on your behalf. But like, I'm the one who was distorted here.
Right.
Yes, you're not capable of fixing this. I'll be the refuge. So we see this played out quite vividly when Israel is in the wilderness after their exodus from Egypt, and God has them build a tabernacle. The word tabernacle means dwelling. It's the Hebrew word mishkan. It was a place where God would dwell with these refugees running from the radiation of Egypt. Wherever his holy dwelling place was, it was a refuge. It was a safe place from all the radiation around them. It was called holy. In the midst of radiation, the radiation of Egypt that has spread and contaminated the Israelites, and they're still like, we want food. We want what we had in Egypt. There was a pure and undefiled holy space where the radiation of sin and iniquity could not come. It was a decontaminated zone. Here they could come before God and have their sin removed and their iniquity reversed. And here was the process. How do I restore the missing that I've done? You need to confess that you've missed and bring an animal to an altar, and we'll transfer the distortion from you onto the animal. And we will cut the animal to pieces, and it will take all of the distortion that you are onto itself. And who's doing all this work? Priests who had a mark on their forehead. There's a mark of a beast and there's a mark of a priest. On the forehead of a priest was holy, decontaminated unto God. This was cleansing the holy space. This was cleansing the iniquitous people. In the midst of all that radiation was a pure, undefiled, holy space where the radiation of sin and iniquity could not come. It was decontaminated. It was a safe place. It was where they could come before a pure, clean God and have their sins removed, iniquities repaired, through the distortion of an animal. You see how the movie's calling back to former episodes?
Yeah.
They were called to bring before God what Abel brought, that God honored, an animal sacrifice.
Right.
And you may be thinking, well, that's not fair. That animal did nothing wrong. That's exactly what you should be thinking. The humans did everything wrong. That's the point. They would inspect this animal to make sure there was no spot or blemish for 10 days. We went through that whole process in the Miqra of the festivals. You think it's amazing that they inspected Jesus for 33 years and couldn't find an ounce of problems with him? All that lamb had to do was pass a 10-day test to be declared. And isn't it interesting that perfect was the one eligible for death?
Yeah.
The imperfect animals didn't have to die. All of that's us. So it's with this in mind that the prophet Isaiah tells us of a future Messiah. Listen to his words, Isaiah 53. Let's read 5-7 and keep Isaiah up. We're going to go to we'll go to another scripture, but start with Isaiah 53, 5-7. So listen to what this there's a future Messiah, there's a decontaminated one who is coming. And listen to what this future priest, prophet, and king is going to do. He will be wounded for our transgressions. Now, the word transgression there is, it's an important word as well. So we looked at avon, which is twisted, or iniquity. We've looked at chatat, which is sin. This is the word pesha. So transgression means to break covenant. Now, covenant or transgressor is an important word. You cannot transgress against a stranger. I'll give you an example. If somebody broke into your house throughout the night and stole, your radio, whatever the case may be, they're not a transgressor, they're a thief. If I broke into your house, Levi, and I stole from you, I'm a transgressor. Because me and you are covenant brothers in Christ. You should be able to trust me. But if I steal from you, I've broken covenant. If a thief comes in and steals, he's a thief. I'm a transgressor because you should be able to trust me. So this passage is speaking to people who are in covenant with this Messiah. He will be wounded for our transgressions, us breaking our covenant. Remember, be thinking of Genesis 15 movie scene. He was bruised for our iniquities. Hold on, let's break that down real slow. So he's going to be beaten, bruised, twisted, bent, distorted. He's going to be distorted from my distortion. That's not fair. That's exactly right.
Yep.
It is not fair. And that should be the object of our worship every single day. God, what you did was not fair, but it was just according to a just God. You should thank God every day he's not fair, because if he was, we would be dead right now.
Yeah.
May we never become apathetic in worship towards this amazing God.
Right.
I want to meditate on this every single day. If you've been in church for 5 years, you're already at the threshold of forgetting what it was like to be lost. Different studies have been put out that it only takes someone 5 years to forget what it was like to be lost. Every single day, you should be thinking about that cross, looking at a Savior that was distorted because I was, and said words I was supposed to say. My God, why have you forsaken me? I was supposed to say those words. And he stepped in my place like a priest, a mediator, and said, I'll say them for you. Oh, come now.
Yes.
Look at verse 6. Now, this is important, and people need to reconcile and understand this. The chastisement for my peace. I needed peace. I had no peace. And he said, here's how I'll give it to you. I will be chastised so you can have some. I need healing from this contamination that I've been exposed to, all this sin, iniquity, and transgression that's distorting us. I was born in sin, and I've been shaped by iniquity. I've been shaped by, I've been deformed my whole life. How are you going to fix that? How are you going to be my refuge from all this radiation? I'm going to take beatings. My stripes will give you healing. It's not, right here, the context is not talking about diseases and ailments. The context is talking about sin. I will take stripes on my back so that sin, that transgression, that iniquity can be healed. All we like sheep, imperfect spotted sheep, that we're not eligible for death. We are getting to go free. The perfect one's going to come. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him, the Messiah, the iniquity, the distortion of us all. All of the radiation that's caused us to be deformed, all of that radiation is going to be sucked out of us and then placed. All the deformed, all of the radiation in the world is going to be taken out and placed on Jesus all at one moment. He was oppressed and he was afflicted. He never opened his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent. So he opened not his mouth.
Wow.
Golly, bro. I say it often. I don't understand apathy.
Right.
Isaiah 12, 1 and 2. Let's look at that. Because Isaiah is going to tell us the name of the Lamb. And it's a big deal that we know the name of the Lamb. That his name was revealed to us before he went into the world. Let's read through verse 4. We'll read 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then after that, we'll go to Romans. And in that day, you will say, O Lord, I will praise you. Though you were angry with me, your anger has been turned away, and you comfort me. Behold, hear this close, God is my salvation. Kiyacha yotevave anios ve zimra ve kia leane le Yahshua. For Yah, the Lord, is my strength and song. He has also become my salvation. The word God is my salvation. The word God there is the name in the Old Testament, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, translated by some as Yahweh, even though we don't know the vowels there. And salvation is Shuach. For behold, God has become Yahshuach. Yahshuach got translated into Greek as Isu or Isus. Isus got translated into English as Jesus. Come now.
Wow. Yes.
For Yah, the Lord, is my strength and song. Yah, the Lord. Yah, salvation. The Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is my strength and song. He has also become my Shuach, my salvation. Therefore, with joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation. And in that day you will say, praise the Lord, call upon his name.
Wow.
What name? He just told us his name.
You have to know the name.
It just told us his name. His name shall be salvation. And it's beautiful that Jesus' name in Hebrew means Yahweh has become my salvation. So when you call upon Jesus, what you are saying is the English transliterated version from the Greek word that was translated from the Hebrew word, Yahweh is my salvation. And there is no other name.
There is no other name.
Whereby we must be saved. Of course not. His name literally means salvation. Of course his name. There's no other name given among men whereby we must be saved. Oh, now that you've seen this episode, now you can understand what movie he's quoting in Romans 5. Let's read 12 through 19. We're going to read a few things from Paul, because Paul's been watching these movies. Paul knows the movie real well. And let's hear what Paul has to say.
You said Romans?
Yep, Romans 5:12 through 19. And now that we have kind of played out that image of the radiation that two people released, listen to Paul's theology of it all. Therefore, just as through one man, that's Adam, sin entered the world. There's that radiation, there's that missing. And death through sin. And thus death spread to all men because all sinned. For until now, the law, sin was in the world, but sin is not imputed when there is no law. Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over those who had not sinned according to the likeness of the transgression of Adam, who is a type of him who was to come. But the free gift is not like the offense. For if by the one man's offense, Adam, if Adam released all this radiation, if Adam messed all this up, if by him offense came and many died, much more the grace of God and the gift by the grace of the one man, Jesus Christ, abounded to many. So let's pause there on the movie. We're going to read 16 through 19. If through Adam all this radiation spread, and he is a type of the second Adam, and Jesus created a cure, how much more so will the cure spread? We have more faith in sin than we do in salvation, bro.
That's right.
Here, it's prophesying salvation's going to spread like a good disease.
Yeah.
It's going to spread. It says, but the free gift is not like the offense, for if by the one man's offense many died, much more the grace of God and the gift by the grace of the one man, Jesus Christ, abounded to many. And the gift is not like that which came through the one who sinned. For the judgment which came from one offense resulted in condemnation. But the free gift which came from many offenses, it resulted in justification. For if by the one man's offense death reigned through the one, much more those who receive abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness will reign in life through the one, Jesus Christ. Therefore, as through one man's offense, judgment came to all men, resulting in condemnation. Even so, through one man's righteous act, the free gift came to all men, resulting in justification of life. For as by one man's disobedience, many were made sinners, so also by one man's obedience, many will be made righteous.
Wow.
Why are we stressing about an end time harvest? I mean,
yeah.
You know what this thing needs though? It needs former distorted people that have been distorted by radiation, given the cure, to go and breathe on everybody the cure by showing forth the image of God, spreading this new result, the result that happened on the cross. Now we can understand a little more what Paul was saying in Romans 12, 1 and 2. He says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that those mercies that are spreading like wildfire now, present your bodies a living sacrifice. You're the animal now. Have dominion over you, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed, shaped to this world, but be metamorphosed, transformed. Is the word there is metamorphos in the Greek. Don't be shaped like this world, but be transformed, be metamorphosed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Listen to what Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5, 2 through 9. These are all, he knows his theology. He knows what sin, transgression, iniquity means. He knows what resulted in the fall. He knows dominion over the beast. And he's been banking on, Paul is really counting on me and you watching these movies. Because listen to the movie he's about to quote. We'll read through 9. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with our habitation which is from heaven. If indeed, having been clothed, we shall not be found naked. Remember, that's what happened after the fall. For we who are in this tent, this body, he's referring to as a little tabernacle, we groan, we're being burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but we want to be further clothed, that mortality may be swallowed up by life. Now, he who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who also has given us the Spirit as a guarantee. There's some good stuff right there. The Spirit is not the full dose of heaven. It's a little down payment of what we're going to experience. This peace I'm feeling, I'm going to feel that on a whole other level. This joy, whole other level someday. So we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in this body, we're absent from the Lord. We walk by faith, not by sight. We are confident, yes, well pleased, rather to be absent from the body. We're not bothered by death, Paul's saying. Because to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. Therefore, remember what sin means, miss. We make it our aim, whether present or absent, to be well-pleasing to him.
Wow.
We are distorted. We're broken.
Yes.
The image of God got cracked. It got broken into three: priest, prophets, and kings. And we really want to see all of that imaging in one being again.
Yeah.
And we'll discuss this in future episodes. We'll see individuals throughout the Old Testament who, for a moment, lived out priest, prophet, and king, but then it broke again. Jesus was our priest. He was our lamb.
Right.
He was our king, is our king.
Yeah, is our king.
Still our priest, mediating. He's ever living to make intercession on our behalf. He is our prophet. He spoke. He is beyond a prophet. He wasn't just, thus saith the Lord. He was the word the Lord said.
Right.
He is the word. And he took on all the distortion, all of the radiation in the world. He absorbed. I heard actually Pastor Ryan at Indiana camp, amazing message. He talked about in Japan how they had the ground was so filled with radiation. And I'm going to butcher this, so Brother Ryan, if you're listening, I apologize. It was an amazing message. But they wanted to get all the radiation out of the soil, so they planted these sunflowers, because the sunflowers would always face the sun, and it would absorb all of the radiation out of the ground into themselves. And it was cleansing the ground through all these sunflowers in Japan. That's what Christ did as the tree of life. He planted himself here on this earth and sucked up, as in essence, all of the radiation out of the cursed ground, out of the cursed human, just sucked all of the radiation out of the world. And trees do this naturally every day. They are breathing in poison.
Right.
And then giving us oxygen.
Right.
It is a living, breathing testimony of what Christ did on that cursed tree, absorbing all of the poison and releasing to us the air that we can breathe. And that rushing mighty wind was pure air in Acts 2.
Yes.
A pure spirit, there was no radiation in that air, came through that upper room and filled each of them with purity, no more distortion. And they were able to breathe it because somebody absorbed all that radiation. Now, if we are to take up our cross and follow him, wherever God has planted us, there as disciples, we are also to absorb around us all of the stuff. If someone on your job where you've been planted tries to harm you, not abuse you, not toxic relationship, we're talking about something else, but if they're trying to hurt you with their words, we don't respond in like manner. We don't respond with radiation.
I love this, man. Yeah, we don't.
We absorb the word.
Yes.
And we breathe out life. That's
right.
A high call. It's a very high call.
Yeah. And just as you're talking, I have this imagery in my head, this radiation that is polluting the earth, which is sin, is this disease. And how challenging it is for us, though, to have the cure in our hands, but we're still bunkered down in our churches.
Yeah.
But see, and so like when Jesus comes onto the scene, people are flocking to him because he is the cure.
He's a cure
for this
pure,
this radiation, this disease of sin. People are being distorted. They're deformed. They're just thinking about it as like the world has ended, and we have the cure to this disease of sin. But how terrible would it be if the church holds on to the cure just for themselves?
So you're hitting on a major portion of preaching in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Yeah. It's gonna boil down to how much faith you have. Do you really think there's enough salvation to go around? If you don't believe that, then what you'll do is you'll harbor it all up. You'll take, we've only got enough cure for our church and no more. There's not enough room for all of you, so we're gonna hoard it all up. No. It's like every time we give an inoculation of the cure, another bottle manifests in the fridge back in the church, and it's like, you never run out of this. Where sin did abound, where missing is prevalent, where there's contamination everywhere, I'm going to stock the fridge full of even more of the cure. You never run out of this. It's the kingdom concept of, like in Eden, if you like pulled a fruit off of a tree, I imagine another fruit just immediately sprouted in its place. And you're just like, oh, look, well, there's plenty here. You can have this fruit. You can have that fruit. We don't become stingy with any of our resources, because in Eden, it's just constantly propagating. And I'm not going to lose my salvation by sitting with a sinner. I'm not squandering my salvation. I'm creating more, I'm showing them the image of God so that when they can come and confess, kill this animal, be regenerated by the Spirit that pours out of them, the pure air, filled with His Spirit, baptized and washed away of all the contamination through baptism, filled with His pure Spirit.
Wow.
It's another imager.
Yes. And so when we are, man, this is hitting me. So when we're sitting with a sinner and let's just say, I mean, I don't know a sinner, but it's just sitting with someone that might be immune or has taken on the curse of sin, which we all have sin, obviously. But when we're trying to be like Christ-like and we're imaging Him, we're imaging the cure. But if we were to, like, say, get on Facebook and so have an argument with someone, then we're not imaging the cure, we are imaging the disease.
That's exactly right. We're doing what Cain did. We're imaging the creature, the beast, but not the creator. When that starts happening and you feel those emotions riling up within you, you must have dominion over it.
Man, you got to have a check in your spirit.
You got to have that check.
You got to be Christ-like. You got to image Christ, which is imaging the cure. You don't want to image sin.
That's it. And how do we do that? I want to talk practical for somebody right there, so it's not so like abstract.
Yeah.
So we really need to get back to the understanding of a liturgy. And liturgy is a terrifying word for Spirit-led people, because liturgy feels like, oh, you just want me to repeat a bunch of words every single day? That's not liturgy is not a replacement to prayer. Liturgy is very good. Liturgy creates habits. It's something you recite every day. That's not your prayer. Liturgy's for you.
Right.
So Israel had a liturgy. They had their Shema. They would quote it every single day, 3 times a day. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one, and we shall love Him with all our heart. That's the aim. I'm going to love you with all my heart, mind, or heart, soul, and strength. And Jesus tells them to do that. He's like, keep that liturgy. But let me help you build out a more profound liturgy. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. The word hallowed is not just talking about giving reverence to His name only. It is talking about, if you really know my name, and my name is salvation, then you better go show that. And don't take that in vain. So don't take my name in vain. The word vain there in Hebrew is, I believe it's Saul, and it means don't put him to a lie. If I showed you that I am salvation, don't put me to a lie. You better show people that I am salvation. So that liturgy, reminding myself every single day. So when I'm on social media, there is a check in the spirit, but there needs to be word in our spirit that the spirit checks. If there's no word in my spirit, then the spirit is just checking my flesh.
Right.
I need a word that the spirit brings back to my mind. And that word can only come to my mind if I have created the habit through a liturgy. You're about to bring my name to a lie. You're about to not hallow my name in front of these people. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. You're about to push my kingdom away here. I want my kingdom here in this coffee shop or here on social media. You're about to push my kingdom away. And the Spirit will check our liturgies. You quoted this 3 times today. You know what my goal is: to bring my kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day, not just you, not just me. Give all of us this day our daily bread. You're about to rob them of a word because you're so obsessed with the word you're about to say. And it's not my word. Forgive us our missings as we forgive those around us. So when somebody hurts us, when someone is distorted and they hurt us, our response is not to spew distortion back at them. Our response is, because we have a liturgy, forgive us as we forgive those who have sinned against us.
Yeah.
The Spirit has to check. Now, liturgy is, I pray that prayer every single day. My prayer time is it's a conversation with God. My liturgy is not, it's for me. I'm reminding myself every day, AJ, you are supposed to remember you've got a Father in heaven who does not define you by your performance, but your relationship with him. AJ, don't you forget that you've got to bring honor to his name. And that happens through your conduct, through your integrity. It happens through your lifestyle. Honor him. AJ, don't you forget that you want his kingdom to come. Are you doing anything that's about to distort that image? AJ, don't you forget that I've been good to you. I have blessed you with an abundance of bread. You live in Eden. You don't have to worry about anything. Can you give some of your resources to somebody with expectation and know that if I pluck from my bank account and I give to that person, just like Eden, it'll replenish. It's just going to restore all over again. I live in Eden. Why am I fretting over money? Whatever the case may be. Why am I stingy when I'm living in Eden? AJ, don't forget. I'm reminding myself every day of this.
Yeah.
You've been forgiven. You were distorted, and Christ absorbed your distortion and forgave you. You better go and revere his name and forgive others.
Wow.
And if you come into the test, I'll deliver you from the evil one. That's a liturgy. And the problem with us is, I don't want to say problem with us, that's arrogant. The problem with many, we don't have that liturgy in our life, that daily reminder of what our purpose is on the earth. And so we just create substitute words. Well, I'm apostolic. I'm glad you were sent. But when you got there, you didn't look like a Christian. I want to be apostolic. I want to be apostolic to the core, but that word means sent. Send me.
Right.
But when I get there, I've got to image you.
Yeah.
I want to be sent as an image.
Yeah.
I am like Christ, Christian. And that is a daily reminder that we can never forget. If we do, we're distorted. And thankfully, if I'm distorted, I know where the refuge is.
We know where the cure is.
We know where the cure is. There's a holy God, a safe space, a refuge where the sick ones can come, and he'll inoculate us with grace.
Right. Man, what a great lesson.
Yep. So let's not be deformed. Let's show people what Christ is and what Christ did. And it's going to be hard. I want to tell somebody, though, I'm not saying any of this as if it's somehow easy.
Right. Because it's not.
To be beat on, to be abused, to be taken advantage of. And we need to have a series of conversations of like, I'm not telling you to stay in a toxic relationship or anything like that. We've got Bible to help navigate that. But we can do the barriers and the lines with grace.
Yeah.
We can do that. We can separate ourselves from some toxic things without looking at them and say, look, I'm done with you. You're disgusting. We can you don't have to tell all the social media, I'm taking a social media break. You don't have to say anything. You can just get off social media.
Yeah. Just get off of it.
Just get off of it. But it's a little bit of a side trail.
Well, AJ, thank you for this lesson, man. Don't be deformed.
No.
That's awesome. What a great lesson, and also illustration of comparing it to Chernobyl and sin, just radiation, and we have the cure. And just to challenge my spirit, don't hold that in. We have the cure. Go be Christ-like, and also just go be Christ-like and spread the cure, man.
Yep. Go be planted as a flower and absorb that radiation and release it.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for this episode, and thank you to everyone that listened on this episode. If you would do me a favor, like, subscribe, do all the things, share this post, and leave a review or a comment, whatever you want to do, or direct message us any thoughts that you have, anything that you want to add to this, and I love to respond to all of our listeners. But yeah, we look forward to the next one. Then little sneak peek for the next episode. AJ, do you got a little sneak peek for that one?
That's funny you're saying it. I'm pulling up my notes right now.
Yeah, give us a little sneak peek for the next episode. This season is gonna be a long one, and I'm super pumped about it.
Next one, we're staying in this vein of the image of God, but we're gonna look at what happens when we make images. We're gonna look at idols in the next lesson.
Let's go.
All right.
Well, AJ, you want to sign us off?
Yes, you know it. Go binge your Bibles.
You got it. We'll see you in the next one, guys.